All right, still with me this hour, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor David Bruno, and litigation trial attorney Rich Schoenstein. And David, I got to start with you. And again, we've talked about this case before, but now, looking at this document, so much coming out, to hear what this child of 6 said. You know, I thought back to when my child was 6, and I can't even imagine those words coming out of his mouth. Shocking in so many ways. Your thoughts?
I agree with you, Michael. I have a 6-year-old. I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I'm just thinking the same thing as we talk about this. And also, think about the hearings that we have right now with Crumbly and some of the other juveniles that committed crimes, talking about red flags early on and how the system failed. Well, look at this one. I mean, this is a 6-year-old bringing a gun in and shooting a teacher. If that's not a red flag for his future, well, there's no red flags. And I wonder, how do you get rehabilitation for a 6-year-old? You have the mother, she pled guilty, you have the civil lawsuit, but I think the most important thing is, how do we get rehabilitation for the minor, and how do we prevent this from all the other schools throughout the country?
Yeah, the details, David and Rich, are ugly. I'm okay, though, with the 6-year-old not being charged. That wouldn't make any sense. Like you said, there's other approaches to this issue, and hopefully they are being dealt with. But you talk about sort of red flags, David. Evidently, according to the document, that wasn't the only incident that actually happened involving that 6-year-old. We heard about the fact that some people had thought that he had a gun in his back throughout the day, but police actually interviewed another retired educator who actually said that 2 years before, this is when he's 4 years old now, the student walked behind her while she was sitting in her chair and placed both of his arms around her neck, pulling her down, choking her to the point that she could not breathe. Now, that happened again when the boy was in kindergarten. Rich, you talk about red flags. There's some conflicting information as to whether the parents had an IEP, which is an individual education plan, where they were supposed to be with him, but she couldn't be with him that particular day. But anyway, I tell you, some kids belong in a classroom, some don't. Love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, well, there are two issues there, Michael. One is, did he belong in the classroom at all? And that one, it seems hard to argue that a child should have been taken out of a class, because that's pretty severe. And I do sort of buy the city's argument that it's sometimes better to keep the child in the classroom. To me, the action here is really on the day in question. There apparently was some information that the child had a gun with him. What was that information? Who had that information, and what did they do about it? Did anybody go check the kid's locker? Did anybody go check the kid's backpack? There was information that he had a gun with him, and I want to know what action was taken, because if there was credible information to that effect and nobody did anything to look, that sounds like negligence to me. That sounds like liability.
Rich, let me throw this out there to you quickly, because that was also included in the information that we got today, or yesterday, excuse me. And an employee of the school had gotten word that he did have a gun. Apparently, she checked his backpack and didn't find it. So what does that tell you in terms of what you're talking about now? Because I can tell you this, if there's a gun in a backpack, you would know it just by the weight. So clearly, maybe he put it somewhere else. I don't know where it was at that point, but someone did check his backpack. Does that affect the way you would approach it, or you're thinking about the case?
Yeah, I think that helps the city, that somebody actually did something when they heard the story about the gun. But again, Michael, I need to know every detail. I need to know exactly what the information was, where it came from. I want all the background information about what the city knew about this student, and I want to know exactly what that school employee did. Did he check the backpack? Did he quailed? Did he look elsewhere where the child had access? I mean, I want to know every minute of what happened before I can assess whether or not it's negligent.
Yeah, the crazy part is the school is actually trying to put this incident under workman's compensation, if you can believe that, that this is sort of a regular, thing that happens. And I don't know how far they'll get with that. All right, gentlemen, stand by. I do have to take a break.